it's this idea that success is defined by being more important to everybody. We're deluding ourselves if we're thinking that's what matters. We just have to be important to the right person that need us to be important in their life. If that's a business relationship, that means at the moment you have that business relationship, you are the most important person to them and they are the most important person to you. Or in a family relationship that extends beyond a transaction, because there is no transaction. It's the life that you raise your children in. It's the life you continue to live with your partner. And at the end of the day, rebuilt a successful business path by remembering that our experiences in life influence our emotions, which influences our decision making.
Hey there, and welcome to Delusional. I'm your host, Michelle Coyle. I'm here with my good friend, Robert Lee. Robert, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Robert Lee, and I went from bankrupt to six figures in 18 months.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you about this because for a lot of the entrepreneurs listening to this show, bankruptcy is like the scariest thing they can think of, right? When I get on calls with people and kind of get into like, what's your fear? Or like, I'm afraid I'll fail. What's failure to you? They'll say bankruptcy. Like it's the worst thing in the world, right? And here you are, you went through bankruptcy and you still seem alive to me. You're not in jail. The mafia didn't come and break your legs. None of that stuff.
Not yet. I mean, unless you consider my two girls the mafia, which they might act that way from time to time. But no, it's not a process I encourage anybody to ever plan for. But if you have to do it, you will survive. And if you can come out of it with a clear idea of what to do, you'll be able to thrive after it too.
Okay, cool. So let's get into it. Like, I want to know, how did you get yourself into that situation? And I'm personally vested. I've been talking about how much business that I got myself into during COVID and how I want to get out of it. Bankruptcy, not an option for me, by the way, because the EIDL loan, the one that I borrowed, is not dischargeable in a bankruptcy. So I don't even have, there have been times I wish to hell I could go bankrupt. So good for you that you got to go bankrupt. But how did you get into the position to need to go bankrupt? Tell us the story.
So in 2018, I bought a direct mail house. I had put myself in position over the course of years to do that. And direct mail marketing is still a fantastic way to market.
And
It's
tell people who are
profitable.
listening who may not know what direct mail is, like what that is.
That is the junk mail you receive in your mailbox. When you can get somebody to look at it like it's not junk mail, there's a lot of money in that. So there are companies out there that prepare that for delivery to the postal service. And I won't go into the technical details of it, but I bought one of those companies who had been delivering the direct mail that I had been using for years. And after 2018, we made the purchase. Things immediately started getting difficult because, of course, the people that I bought from had their way of doing things. And that wasn't going to be the way that I did things. So went through some fits and bumps, and we survived COVID, which hit about 18 months after that, and the high prices that came after the bailouts or investments, whatever you consider it, by two different presidents, and then the material shortages that came because nobody could find paper anywhere, and labor shortages, all of that. I survived all of that. And then in August of 2022, my wife and I lost our boy. My dad passed away unexpectedly 6 months, almost to the day afterwards. And then all of those difficulties and challenges that I thought I had been navigating well basically was too much gravity. And I collapsed in on myself like a dying star, destroyed that multi-million-dollar business in about 4 months, and just literally got myself to the point where by the time I actually stopped and looked at what I was doing, there was no other way out for me other than to beg for forgiveness of that debt and start over from literally nothing after bankruptcy. So
Yeah, and
it's
I really appreciate you being willing to share about that stuff because this is very real.
mhm.
I've experienced something very similar. In fact, the way that I got myself so far into debt was in 2021. right after I'd borrowed all that money, I had a similar year of trauma after, like horrible personal life stuff. Separated in my marriage, my stepfather passed. I had some stuff going on with my oldest kid that's personal to him that I won't talk about publicly, but was
Hmm.
very traumatic for everybody in the family, and just thing after thing after thing. And yeah, I lost the plot. I mean, I stayed in business kind of barely,
Hmm.
but lost so much money that year just trying to take care of myself, take care of my family, obviously. And as a person with a small team, it was hard to keep it going. This is a real thing. It's a real risk for solopreneurs and people with small businesses. If you've got a team under, 10 people, if the owner gets taken out and you haven't got the business to the place where it runs without you yet, it's devastating for the business. So I'm glad we get to talk about that today.
Yeah, and it's something that we as solopreneurs, we feel like we have to insulate ourselves from the emotion of life. We feel like our business is our life, and it's just not. I mean, the thing that told me at the end of the day that I was going to be okay was the fact that I had a wife at home and two girls at home. And of course, the girls didn't understand what was going on. They were 4 and 5 or 3 and 5 at the time. But my wife basically just put her arms around me and said, "We'll be okay. You're a
Mm,
smart guy. You'll figure things out." She has a regular job at a major hospital system in Atlanta. She basically just said, "We're going to be fine. I just need my husband home."
mhm.
And the impact that we have inside of our businesses as entrepreneurs, small business people, solopreneurs, whatever you want to call yourself, it's the fact that we have to act tough. We
Mm,
feel like we have to lie to ourselves that people around us need to see us being successful or strong or whatever term we might want, and they don't. I mean, we're your name of your show, right? Delusional. We are delusional if we believe that we have to be absolutely rock solid in everything. We need people around us to understand that they can be a little broken at times because we're going to be a little broken at times. And the only way we're going to survive this is recognizing that.
absolutely. And one of the reasons that I do the show, or wanted to do the show in the first place, was to get behind the curtain a little bit, especially for entrepreneurs. There is so much pressure to be, oh, no, it's great. I haven't made a secret of the fact that I had a bad year in business last year. And when people ask me, "Oh, how was business last," like, when they were asking me last year, "How's business?" and I said, "It's slow," like, the look on people's faces, it was just like, you're not supposed to ever say that. You're supposed to be like, "It's
Mm-hmm.
great. Everything's ama," and I was like, "I'm not gonna say it's great if it's not great. Like, I'm here to talk about the real stuff, right?"
Mm-hmm.
We need spaces to do that. This is a show that is meant to be inspiring and empowering and show how people climb out of situations, and we can't do that without talking about what, the real emotions behind what's going on in that process as we're doing it. I hope everybody watching and listening hears, hey, you might be going through some tough shit. We've been through some tough shit too. You can go through some tough shit and you can come out the other side of that shit, but we need to talk about what it's like to be in it for a minute.
And it's fascinating to me. Let me gush on you a little bit because we met what in 2022 or
Yeah, 2, 3 years
thereabouts,
ago.
somewhere, yeah, two or
Something
three
like
years
that. Yeah.
ago. Stay connected through digital. And so I've watched you go through this process very publicly. And I've been
Mhm.
fascinated by this show because it seems like you pulled back your own curtain first.
Yeah.
It seems like you pulled back the ability for people to understand like being in business does not mean we have all the answers. It's
Mhm.
been fascinating. It's been phenomenal to watch. It's really been empowering. It's taught me like it's okay. You're going to be fine, Rob. You're going to be through it. And then, in fact, to the point that we got here, you came out and said I was $2 million in debt in a public Facebook post. And I went
Mhm.
through a separation. And I just thought, okay, so now this is why God or the Spirit or whatever you pray to, if you pray at all, introduced us a couple of years ago was
Mhm.
because he knew at some level we need to be exposed to one another. So,
Yeah. I
kudos from me to you.
I think so too. Thank you, and you can gush on me anytime you want. I love that. Flattery will get you everywhere around here. And I felt the same way about you because the very first time I met you, and I remember very clearly the very first time I met you, you mentioned losing your son. And I was
Hmm.
just automatically struck by that. As a mother, I have two boys. And the fact that you were comfortable enough to be vulnerable enough about that, like on our first meeting, that you were talking about that, and not just with me, there were other people in the room that you were happy to share about that. I was like, this is a special guy. Like, not everybody would do that, could do that. And I got a sense, even before we started talking on a deeper level, that you had alchemized that experience in some way to be like, this is going to help other people if I talk about this. Is
Yeah,
that right?
it's really funny you mentioned that because at the time we met, I was in the throes of that emotional collapse.
Mhm.
I don't know that I thought that clearly about what I was saying. All I knew was it hurts so bad everything that's going in. I just can't hold it. I can't hold it. I have to vent, I have to rant, I have to just
Mhm.
talk, right? I appreciate the fact that you think it was calculated. I don't know that it was. I
Yeah,
really do think it was me just begging for somebody to help out. And we ended up talking quite a bit more after that. So it did have a very long term help. And it was actually a moment that as I got through the process and had to start rebuilding, I do look at moments like that and say, you might not know what you were doing, but it served a longer term purpose for you, which means it probably served a longer term purpose for other people. And you
mhm.
should just lean into that.
That's right. You mentioned me being open and vulnerable. I will say, even vulnerably now, it was really scary for me to hit publish on that post, that public Facebook post about going $2 million in debt. That freaked me out, and there's not a lot that scares me in that way anymore. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I've taken a lot of risk. I'm obviously living my life in a very public way on social media in a lot of ways. I'm not particularly shy, you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
that one, that's a vulnerable thing. It's something that I've been working through in my own mindset work, the shame of, the guilt of, just going back and like what I should have done differently for years now, and it's scary to talk about, but there was something that pushed me. You talk about God or spirit or universe. I say God, I'm Jewish. It can be whatever you want for anybody else. But for me, I get messages sometimes through. And a message that I got through was like, you need to be talking about this. You got to
Mm.
talk about it. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, like, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. I'm like, are you sure, God? Like, do I have to? But I pray, and I'm not secret about the fact that I'm religious. I pray every day saying, use me,
Hmm.
utilize me, use me the way that I'm supposed to be utilized. And so when I am offering up that prayer and I'm getting back a very specific response, you need to talk about this, even if it scares the shit out of you. I go, okay, I asked for it. I said, use me. And now this is what you're telling me to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a faithful servant. I did that. I was scared shitless. I did
Hmm.
not know what kind of response I was going to get. And I got an amazing response, all kinds of engagement, all kinds of comments, all kinds of support, people in my inbox, sales calls booked off of it, which is not why I published it, was not meaning to
Hmm.
do that. You reached out and said, "Hey, can I be on the pod?" I was like, "Yeah." Like I think I got 2 podcast interviews booked off of it, 2 or 3 sales
Hmm.
calls booked. I mean, just insane. And so much support and love. Thank you for sharing this. And a few like, hey, me too. I got myself in a lot of debt and have been scared to talk about it. And those responses, that last part, that's why I do that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't want people to feel like they're alone in this shit. This is a common experience.
No, it amazes me. And I believe when I commented, I said, look, you've got to talk to this woman named Christine Marie, which I still
Mhm.
encourage you. I hope she's one of the
She's booked
podcasts
on the
that,
she's coming. Yeah, she'll be on the podcast.
yes,
Spoiler
you know,
alert. Yeah,
she
she's
she
coming.
has this amazing framework, and that framework helped me to consolidate my way of thinking. But you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. When you put yourself out there authentically, when you say, this is the experience I've had and this is how it's made me feel, it gives people freedom to do that same thing, to be able to say, I have had that experience and I felt that way too. And it builds this emotional flywheel that we live in a crazy world. We seem to be bombarded with horrible things that happen, and they are
Mhm.
horrible, but
Mhm.
it can break us down if we don't lean on that faith that things will be okay. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it's worth congratulating, saying thank you, for you sharing that moment, because for me, it was another opportunity. And I happen to believe that God is somebody that hurts with us. God is definitely somebody that feels emotion. If we are created in his image, that means he cries. That means he laughs at stupid things. That means he giggles over things that might be a little funny, might be a little serious. And I just, man, I got all the faith in the world that he puts people together to have a true human experience like that. So, and like you, that's what I've done. And I've totally refocused and been able to rebuild my business from that, using that and understanding that people need that in their life.
Faith is so important to talk about in business or in life or in anything. And, as a business coach, sometimes it's awkward to bring up faith. I still work a lot in the political realm. A lot of the folks I work with, I get nervous, like if you even bring up faith or spirituality, if that's going to be offensive to people. I had to get to the point where I don't live my life worried about being offensive to people anymore. It took me some work to get there. And now I'm very, at least being Jewish, like people realize we're not trying to recruit. Like the Jews are not trying to recruit you. It's hard to become a Jew. It took me 2 years. It's not a religion where you can walk in and sign up. So like you don't have to worry about that. But I also grew up Christian in the Bible Belt. And we grew up saying the Lord's Prayer. And in the Lord's Prayer is thy will be done. This is still a prayer that I pray all the time. Thy will be done, thy will be done. Utilize me, with the acknowledgement that I believe there is a plan that I don't understand and that I'm part of. I'm maybe a pawn in this whole scheme of this very complex plan, and that what is meant for me will be for me. What is not meant for me will fall away. These are very comforting thoughts most of the time. These are not very comforting thoughts when something horrible happens and there's a tragedy in your life and you go, wait, how could you turn around and say, this is part of God's plan? I want to ask you, when you lost your son, did you have thoughts around that?
It's really funny you asked that. Initially, no. Initially, I don't know how I process. I can't recall how exactly I processed it to get to this point. But eventually I did start to think like, I'm not angry. I'm not questioning why it happened per se. I remember thinking at that moment or at some moment thereafter, I'm going to trust we're going to be okay. I don't get why this is happening. I wanted nothing more than to have a boy. And that's not to say, I almost feel guilty saying that because I have these two beautiful daughters that are crazy and amazing and brilliant. They have these personalities that just light up a room in very unique ways from one another. But I wanted that boy because I made my old man a promise when I was young that I would name my son after me the same way I was named after him.
Yeah.
And I thought I can't ever do that now because this is my son that was named after me.
Yeah.
And so at some point I just kind of said, I can drive myself crazy wondering why this is happening, but I'm just going to trust that we're going to make it out okay. And then 6 months later, my old man passed. And my old man passed literally out of nowhere. I mean, the day before we were talking about him coming out to visit for my elder daughter's 5th birthday and to get him a wheelchair and get everything set up so that he could be comfortable in the house. And then the next day I get a call saying he had a heart attack in an eye doctor's chair. The last thing I ever said to him was yes. And again, I don't remember being angry. I do remember thinking relatively quickly, all right, my old man lived out in Utah, was still out west where I grew up. I'm in Atlanta. I knew it frustrated him to no end that he could not be around my girls as much as he wanted to be, as much as we were around his parents when we were growing up in Cheyenne. And so I immediately thought, I said, maybe, just maybe, the old man is up there telling my son everything that he wanted to tell him as he was growing up.
Yeah.
Because he was so excited at the fact that there was going to be 3 of us in 23. And then now all of a sudden, those 2 are together as far as I'm concerned. And to me, that was a very comforting thought. Because I also know, I go back to what I said earlier, that doesn't mean God is ignoring the fact that I'm in crisis mode, the fact
Mhm.
that I am emotionally devastated at that particular moment. I know he felt it with me, but I also had this faith that just told me he gets to see my son interact with my father on his terms. And I thought, man, that's just a good thought. That's a happy thought. Might not be a happy thought I understand, but it is genuinely an amazing thought. And to that end, it doesn't prevent me from going through the emotional collapse that I did, but it definitely gives me perspective afterwards.
Yeah.
And when I'm able to recall that and think about that, I can approach my business in a way that gives people the opportunity to feel that with me as well. Like, I don't understand why I struggle, but I feel like things are going to be okay when I'm working with Rob. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to go back to your wife and your marriage and the role of her in this story because that was so beautiful what you said about her wrapping her arms around you saying, "We're going to get through this. I just need my husband." I'm
Mhm.
going to cry just talking about this isn't my marriage, it's your marriage. And it's
Yeah.
making me cry to talk about it. So many times when a family goes through a tragedy at that level, it does the opposite. It drives a wedge between people. I'm recalling, and I had, backwards from you, but years and years ago, I had a year in which my father passed, and then 6 months later, I lost a pregnancy late, like second
Hmm.
trimester. Um, Knocked me on my ass, by the way, for like 3 months. I didn't get out of bed after that. The only time in my life I've been knocked on my ass to that level, to that extent. At that time, my then husband and I reacted to that grief completely differently. We didn't divorce at the time. We ended up divorced later, but the way that I felt, the way that he felt, and the way that we expressed it was so different. It didn't bring us together. And I can look back and, again, that marriage lasted another 10 years after that. But when I look at like where the seeds of where things started to kind of diverge, that comes up for me as I didn't feel understood. Maybe he didn't feel understood. We were kind of processing something really traumatic in a totally different way. And you see that a lot with grief with couples where, they'll they get distance from each other, they're not processing in the same way, they'll start to argue with each other, maybe even start to blame each other and things like that, and it just goes completely sideways. So what do you think it was about your relationship, your marriage, that allowed you to come together and support each other rather than go separate ways on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we both acknowledged at some level that we are going to grieve individually.
Hmm.
And let me just put this out there. When it comes to the emotional expression of the two of us, I am the nutcase of the two. I am outwardly emotional. She is an introvert by nature. She's Cuban, right? And culturally, Cubans are very, very stoic, very,
Hmm.
very prim and proper, right? They're very different from other Latin cultures in that regard. Nuanced differences. I'm not going to say night and day, but very nuanced differences. And so I think I was blessed to have a wife that understood we were going to do some of the grief on our own.
Hmm.
And she did it the way that she needed to do it. And I did it the way that I needed to do it. We accepted that about each other. And that allowed us to grieve together at the moments where we needed to.
Hmm.
I just think at the end of the day, that was part of it. And then I look back at everything that happened before we met in our lives. And even just the other night, she made a comment like, before I met you, I just kind of accepted that I would be alone and, or that I might be alone
Hmm.
as I grow older. And I had been at the point where we met, like, if I don't meet somebody on match.com where we met, screw it. I'm just going to be single the rest of my life. And it just
Yeah.
is going to, I just got to be more fit than I would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
But joking aside, I think we came together. We were introduced at a point in our life that God had prepared us for. And he basically said, all right, here's your chance. I'm going to introduce you to the person that I think might be a good match for you. It's up to you two to make it work, but I've prepared you for this. I think you can do it.
Yeah.
And so we just, from the very start, we had this relationship that recognized our individuality, that recognized when we brought that individuality to the relationship, it made each other stronger and better. And it allowed us to feel secure enough to be a little broken about things. And just from that end, it made it easier. It made it easier for me to accept that I'm the failure of the two of us because it gave me a chance to restart. And I think it made her feel like I didn't marry a failure. So I can feel like a failure. She recognized that there's skills and capabilities, and we were just able to lean into the things that make two adults clearly think about and clearly feel their way through a relationship during very difficult times. And that's the best way that I can explain it. But I can tell you that beautiful woman with that psychopath cat, that little girl crying with the baby girl, the four of us make this amazing story. We just write this amazing story together.
Mm.
And we're still different. We're still unique. My wife still watches her shitty fucking reality television every
Hey,
night.
I love that shit too.
You 90 Day Fiance like she is? She watches
No,
this
I'm
stuff.
right now I'm into the traders.
Gotcha. No, she's always, she grew up with her mom watching soap operas during the day. So she
Mhm.
always, after she got out of nursing school, would work the night shifts. So the things that were on TV were always soap operas. She likes every reality television show that
Yeah.
is like a soap opera. I can't watch them. It's too heartbreaking to watch this stuff. But despite all of that craziness, I just think it comes down to the fact that she has faith that God introduced us for a reason, and
Mhm.
I have faith that God introduced us for a reason. And if we want to honor that opportunity, we approach it from the perspective of we don't blame each other. We think clearly about what it is that we're doing. We find the simple thing that we need to do, and we do it.
Mm.
And it's an amazing thing because whether or not you approach a marriage or you approach a business that way, they need the same thing. So I'm not saying my marriage is a business, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that there's complementary skills in both. And there's
Absolutely. I'm better
so
at business than marriage, but yeah, there are absolutely complementary skills in both. As I'm listening to you talk, and I coach a lot of different people, people of all genders, people of all, whatever, all walks of life, all ages. But a lot of the people I coach are men. A lot of them are married men, heterosexual relationships, husbands, fathers. And I'm not saying this is you, so I'm not trying to generalize, but one of the themes that I hear from folks that are in that position is it's very important for me to be a provider.
mhm.
A lot of identity wrapped up in being a provider. We work with that a lot in coaching. And so for a man, if something in a husband, father, heterosexual man in that kind of gender dynamic feels like I'm not providing anymore, that's a horrible identity blow. That's why I'm picking up on your wife saying, hey, I don't care. I don't care what happens with your business. Like, I need you, the person.
Yep.
And also, I believe in you. And I know that you can. And I know what that must have meant to you to have somebody say, first of all, you're more important than that paycheck or anything else that was going on with the business. And second of all, I know that you're going to be fine. And I know that you're going to, that you're going to come back and you're going to be back on your feet. And in the meantime, I'm here. I'm bringing something to the table and I've got you. Like, we're a team, right? What did that mean to you at the time?
It just, like I said, it made me feel like, okay, I have zero clue over what's going to happen,
Mhm.
except for the fact that I have 100% reassurance that we're going to be okay. Like
Yeah.
we are going to be okay. And like you, I mean, I do business coaching, I guess. I don't ever call myself a coach, but coaching is therapy at the end of the
Mhm.
day. You know
Mhm.
this, or therapy is coaching, or business growth is coaching, whatever it might be. We have those conversations with our clients as well. And we oftentimes have to approach the assumptions of what being a provider actually means because
Mhm.
definitions matter. And
Mhm.
so, to go back to your example of being a provider, it became very clear to me that what I provided this family was maybe not what I assumed I had to provide to start.
Yeah.
I mean, my old man, my parents split when I was 9, and my old man raised us. He had,
Mhm.
at 31 years old, had 3 kids under the age of 10.
Mm.
For him, being a provider was keeping lights on, keeping
Mhm.
clothes in the dresser, keeping food on the table. That was being a provider because that's what had to happen. There was nobody else to do it. I did not need to be a provider that brought home a guaranteed paycheck to the degree that I was. I had to be a provider to my family of a presence.
Mhm.
I needed to be the father in our home, inside of our home. And that meant physically being here, which that business was taking me away from. I was
Mhm.
not here physically. I was exhausted mentally when I had to drive across just 15 miles of miserable Atlanta traffic. Every father is a provider, but oftentimes you just have to be willing to accept it might not be on the definition and terms that you demand.
Mhm.
And you have to figure out how to do what makes you feel valued, but you also have to make sure that you do what demonstrates that you value your family. And that's ultimately what I came to the conclusion of. I had to create a balance between that in a much better way. And my wife reassuring me that being home was going to do that, or being present
Mhm.
is a better word to use, was absolutely going to do that. And I'd have to agree with her. She was right. So if you're watching this, baby mama, you were right, even though I never admitted it any other
You
time.
said it. We have it on, I almost said video. How old am I? We we have a recording of it. We have a record of it. He said it. You're right. I love that you brought that up. That's a thing that I get to with a lot of my male clients as well. It's like providing, there's financial provision, of course. There's also nurturing that comes from a
Hmm.
dad, that comes from a husband. There is provision of love. There's provision of presence. Like there's so many different ways to provide. If you're cooking for your family, that you're providing in that way. There's the acts of service that you do, and we all provide for our families like that as parents, as partners. There's so many different ways that we provide. One of the ways
Hmm.
that I was able to soothe my own soul looking back on how did I get myself in this much debt? How did I fuck it up this bad? Was I looked back and I said, yeah, but how else was I showing up? And like you, it was like at that time in my life, I needed to show up for my family. And actually, what that
Hmm.
debt did for me, that because at the time that was cash in the bank, what that did for me was it allowed me to lose money in the business. It allowed me to be there for my family. It bought me the ability to be present and not go out of business and like live to fight another day in the business. So, as scary as that was, and as hard as it even is to deal with now, I look back and I go, yeah, I'm maybe not proud of what happened in the business that year or two, but I'm very proud of how I showed up for my family, how I showed up as a
Hmm.
person. When my mother lost her husband, my stepfather of 30 plus years, how I showed up for my mother was way more important in that moment than anything I could have done in the business, right?
Hmm.
What's money compared to showing up for the people that you love?
No, and I'm going to ask you right now, did it make you have faith in yourself
Mhm.
when you were present for other people?
Yeah.
I mean, did it make you think, hey, look, Michelle can do this. Michelle
Mhm.
can make this world a better place.
Yeah, and I'll tell you an experience I had once that was a profound experience for me. It started out as a kind of a trivial thing. And it's a social media thing. It's a Facebook post that I made one time. And I said, I was feeling kind of down on myself. This is a few years back, maybe 5 years ago, something like that. Um, and I don't know, I was having a bad day. And I said something on Facebook like, hey, if I've made a difference in your life, would you mind commenting and telling me how?
Hmm.
And I was expecting, Robert, because I was successful. I'd made millions of dollars. I'd helped a lot of people make millions of dollars by that point. I was expecting people to comment and say, yeah, you changed my life because you helped me make millions of dollars in my business and I'm a multimillionaire now and I can be with my kids more and whatever because I have all this money. That is not what anybody said. I didn't give
Hmm.
one. I was hoping for one or two so I could screenshot them later. Yeah, I didn't get any of that. What I got though was so much more important and it was so much more profound. And it was people saying the most micro moments, things that I'd forgotten. It was like, hey, there was this one time that we were at a conference and I wasn't feeling well and I was sitting down in the corner at a party and you were the only person that came over and checked on me and said, how are you doing?
Hmm.
It was the time that I started a new job with you and you were the only person at that company that reached out beforehand and said, hey, welcome to the team and I'm excited to meet you. You know, it was
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. And it was rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of it. And I'm going to cry talking about that. And this was years ago, but man, was that a life changing realization for me. People don't remember the millions of dollars that you made or the millions of dollars that you helped them make. They remember that you're the one who came and checked on them when they were sick. And to
Yes.
answer your question, yes, it made me feel better about myself. I said, yeah, I am a kind person. If you were to ask me right now, what's the most important thing for you to be, or what's the most important thing for you to teach your children to be, is kind.
Yes.
I want to be kind. I want to show up kind. I want to, like, if somebody's trying to cut me off in traffic, I want to be the one that hits my brakes and says, go ahead. I want to be the one that stops and holds the door for somebody. And because I have
Yeah.
lived my life that way, people have registered that. They remember that. I think when I die, this is the stuff that people will be saying at my funeral. And
Hmm.
man, that's profound to me. And it just underscored, yes, I'm proud of myself. Yes, I like who I am. Yes, I want to keep being that person. This is what matters. These little micro moments are what matter. It's not about I made millions of dollars and I'm more important than you. It's the exact opposite.
It reminds me so many times of my second daughter, Dylan. And Dylan is very much like me. She is an emotional volcano. And unlike me growing up, I didn't have anybody else in my family that was like this except for my mom, who's a bit of a nutcase. But as I said, my mom was not the one that raised us during those transformative, very difficult teenage years. And so oftentimes I had a dad that didn't know how to connect on that level. He did everything he knew how to do. I'm not criticizing it. It's just it's communication barriers
Mhm.
sometimes. Dylan luckily has that emotional nutcase in the house. And so we oftentimes have to educate Dylan about how to express emotions and how to feel and how to be angry and how to be happy and how to be argumentative and how to share this space with one another. But the thing that I recall just from the last 2 days was I picked up Dylan, gave her a big hug, and I just looked at her and said, I wanted to tell you something that I didn't tell you earlier, that the way you answered this question from me just reminds me how awesome you are as a
Mm.
5 year old. The smile on her face, that is a smile that she's not going to remember as a 5 year old, but that's the only way to shape a 5 year old to be a 50-year old that treats people the way they need to be treated. She can learn the hard way like I did, or she can learn the easy way. And the easy way means I have to be somebody that invests that emotional validation in her right now. And it goes back to what you said. It's never too late to start in life doing that for everybody else.
Yeah.
And then you get that long Facebook post, which I'm going to steal, by the way. I'm going to
Right, do
post
it.
something like that in the
Do
next
it.
couple of
It'll
days
change your
because
life. Everybody listening, do it, please. It'll change your life.
um, but we go back to the idea of being delusional and what it means to be delusional. It's this idea that success is defined by being more important to everybody. We're deluding ourselves if we're thinking that's what matters. We
Mm.
just have to be important to the right person or the right persons that need us to be important in their life. And if that's a business relationship, that means at the moment you have that business relationship, you are the most important person to them and they are the most important person to you. Or in a family relationship, obviously that extends beyond a transaction because there is no transaction. It's the life that you raise your children in. It's the life you continue to live with your partner. And at the end of the day, rebuilt a successful business path by remembering that our experiences in life influence our emotions, which influences our decision making. And I've never wavered from that in the last couple of years. And
Mm.
I've been able to rebuild and provide for my family in a variety of different ways just by remembering that.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about the rebuilding and the redemption story arc. We want to hear how this turned out. So you said now you were able to go from the bankruptcy to rebuilding to six figures in revenue. And I think you told me before the call 6 figures in recurring revenue within
Mm-hmm.
18 months, which is amazing from zero, and especially from not just zero on the balance sheet, but from emotionally where you were coming out of and having to
Yep.
rebuild yourself internally. So how'd you do it?
I am a big believer in the theory of constraints. And the theory of constraints basically has some principles of clear thinking. That's all it is. It's a way to approach business by thinking clearly. And Dr. Eliyahu Goldratt, who developed the theory, basically said our reality is simple, which means in business, it comes down to that one bottleneck inside of the business that is preventing you from growth. Well, my bottleneck was the fact that I had to be home, I had to be present for my wife and girls. I
Mhm.
had to physically be with them as much as possible.
Mhm.
And when I understood that, became very easy to make business decisions for myself that didn't contribute to me being present
Mm.
and working with clients that I could help make money. We can't blame people. We can't approach every problem like we have all the answers. We have to be investigators. We have to understand the cause and effect of what it is that we do. And we can't compromise on the idea that everybody wins. Now, when I approached that for my own business, I was able to provide services at lower costs
Mhm.
that provided better profitability for me. And I was able to work with more people and still be home, that allowed me to create a service package that utilized modern technology like AI
Mhm.
in ways that people just aren't using it right now. And I'm able to create the environment where I can succeed, generate revenue, and do the same thing for my clients. When everybody wins, it becomes relatively easy and simple at that point to just replicate the process. That's it. I mean, there's not much for it. We met at a political conference. I don't
Mhm.
do politics as much as I used
Mhm.
to. I'm working in real estate,
Mhm.
and that was also part of changing my focus to a less confrontational environment, to a more collaborative environment. So,
Which is so fair. I love that you brought up Goal Rat, and I've got to tell you, the goal was a seminal text, right, in business
mhm,
school. Where I went to school at Dartmouth, we actually had a contest every year because the goal was very famously assigned as spring break reading.
mhm,
And so over the years, this evolved into a contest where everybody would take the goal and try to take the most exotic picture possible with the goal. So we had the goal on top of Mount Everest, and here I'm scuba diving with the goal. I didn't have that sort of money when I was in grad school, so I took it to
yeah.
Oklahoma and was like, "Here's the goal on a hay bale, and here's the goal on on a mechanical bull." Um,
Hey, an Israeli author in Oklahoma,
yeah.
exotic as hell.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Exotic as
I should
hell.
go back and find all those pictures because they were hilarious. And my mother got into this with me, by the way. And we were taking pictures with the goal in front of buffalo and like all everything we could think of that was
Mhm.
just so stereotypical. It was so much fun. But that book was life changing. Again, I know I keep saying life changing. There's a lot of things that have changed my life,
It
guys.
is.
But that book changed the way that I thought, not just about business, but about my life, because it does
Mhm.
induce that theory of constraints. When you have constraints on your life, as we all do, when you acknowledge those constraints, that's what forces you to get creative. How do I work within
100%.
these constraints? I decided a couple of years ago, Robert, that like I was not willing to compromise on my health in terms of going to the gym anymore. Right. It used to be for years, I've gone to the gym my whole life. Right. But it used to be if I got busy at work or whatever, there'd be periods where I'd just say, oh, the gym's got to go out the window. I got to lock in at work. Campaign people are notorious for this. And I
Mhm.
got to a point and I got to an age where it was like, this is non-negotiable. And about this time, maybe 12, 18 months ago, I structured my calendar as such. And I do not, to this day, I do not take meetings before noon. That doesn't mean I don't work
Mhm.
before noon. You'll see me posting on social media before noon. I'm texting, I'm responding to emails, but I don't take a meeting before noon because I go to the gym every
Mhm.
morning before noon or do something else to take care of myself if I'm sick or something like that, right? Like that's me time. Everybody's out of the house. That's my time to take care of myself. It's a non negotiable because at the end of the day, my health is more important than any amount of money that I can make. If you lose your health, it
Yep.
doesn't matter how many millions of dollars you've got in the bank.
No, it becomes very expensive to live at that
It
point.
becomes very
So,
expensive. Having
and
to
that's
live.
that's
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's same thing with my family. At the end of the day, my wife drags me to Disney 5 times a year.
I love
It
that. I'm a Disney
sucks.
adult as well.
I hate it,
I think she
but
and
you
I
know
would be
what?
best friends. Wait, like she likes reality TV and Disney?
Oh, yeah, you 2 can go as many times as you want to.
I'll go with her. Don't tempt me.
But but you know what though? I do love seeing how much they love it. My wife and
Mhm,
my girls.
mhm,
I can be in a place that I don't enjoy being in because it's not about the place. It's about being in a place with them. There's no compromise on that. And just like you, I plan around, and I say this right now because we have to wrap up this interview so I can go get my elder daughter off the
yeah.
bus. There is no exception.
Mhm,
Those are the 3 most important people in this life.
mhm,
They will not have, there's a limit on the time that we have on this planet together. which makes it beautiful, but it also means you have to value it. And that's my constraint, is my time with them. I've given away way too much in spite of them. It's now, that is what everything is built around. And the goal, it's not luck, the choice, everything that Goldratt wrote, it's become so, not even central. It is the operating system that I use. And it's, my life is better for it. My business is better for it. Both are better at the same time.
Robert Lee, thank you so much for being on. We're going to let you go pick up your daughter from the bus. But before we go, if people want to find you, they want to learn more about you and your work, where can they find you online?
Yeah, go to rob.lesix.com. That's rob.lesix.com. Connect to all of my business socials, all of my personal socials. There's even a button you can click to give me a call directly. And I'll be happy to chat with you about what sort of questions you have, and hopefully interact with the post that I'm going to make inspired by Michelle.
Please do. And if you want to find me, I'm everywhere at Michelle to Scale. Find me, talk to me. It's not my team, it's me in the DM. So before I get too famous for that, you might want to get in touch. Robert Lee, thank you so much for being on Delusional. We loved having you here. We'll have to do it again sometime, but thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you. It has been a privilege, and I appreciate you sharing your time with me.